Well, it is, what is it, Wednesday evening, and not quite the end of a day. It's late afternoon. I'm going to be doing my online class tonight that I teach, and so be another kind of, longish evening in my world. I have been super distracted with a lot of different things today, including trying to hone in on designing some new business cards, which is one of those things I really just hate to do. I think I'm probably driving the poor graphic designer at the business card place a little bit crazy. Um, and I'm doing my best, but some of this stuff is new territory for me. And I think I will stick with maybe trying to do like Mondays for, kind of self employed business stuff. So I'll just leave that there. But it's definitely been a day that's been a little challenging on the logistics front. But what's on my mind today is actually kind of like a part two to yesterday's video, in which I was talking about how a lot of people around me are going through relationship change and loss right now. And a couple of them in particular were rather sudden and unexpected. And that kind of thing, of course, leaves you reeling even more than just regular relationship loss. And in any case, I was listening when I was doing some kind of chore things today. I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts lately that I've really enjoyed. It's called Just Break Up podcast, and it's really just kind of silly. But I love these two hosts who, as they love to say, have no credentials and just want to give people relationship advice. But they're super emotionally intelligent people, and I really love listening to them talk. Anyway, they were talking in the one I was listening to earlier and using some symbolism, and I love analogies and symbolism and imagery, and I use that a lot in my sessions in little ways. And today they were talking about kind of the analogy, I suppose, of relationships and how people might be in a situation where they feel like they've invested so much of their time and energy into a relationship, and they're really hesitant to walk away from it because of all that they've invested. And that might be, in the context of what I'm thinking about today, may be about, of course, romantic relationships, but it could be about any relationship. It could be a family relationship that maybe you need to put a boundary on, or it could be a work relationship or even a friendship, something like that. But the analogy that they were using was, and that I wanted to just talk about because it has been kind of on my mind today, is the analogy of digging a well. So, if you think about digging for water, and all the physical labor that goes into that, right? Of like digging and digging, and sometimes being in a relationship that is not healthy, in which you might be constantly seeking some sort of reinforcement that you just aren't getting. Maybe there's emotional abuse in the relationship. Maybe there's just not a two-way street in terms of communication or affection or validation, reinforcement, all the things we need in relationships. In any case, being in a relationship like that can feel like the analogy that I heard today, which I really enjoyed, the idea of digging a well and just how much work. I mean, anybody who's ever dug anything knows it's difficult. And digging for water and never reaching that water, having it just be continually out of sight. Like you might be digging and you see some drop, but you can't quite get there, and you just keep digging, and you never get anywhere. You never get to that water. Somebody looking at that might say, you need to extricate yourself from this giant hole that you've dug and go somewhere else to dig, right? And sometimes when we get really entrenched in a relationship and just don't see the way out of it, it can feel that way. Like, but wait, I've been doing all this work, all this time. I can't just walk away from it now. But again, somebody from the outside looking at that well, that hole that's being dug to nowhere, would say, actually, you do need to allow yourself to come out into the sunlight and to start digging somewhere else. And maybe that means that the digging that you're doing is inward, working on the things that you need and the places that you need to heal. Or maybe it's starting a new relationship where you find that water much more quickly and easily. But we can get kind of stuck, and we can have a sense of, I've already invested all of this labor, and I just can't imagine walking away from it now. And so that's something that really struck me, I guess is the right word, or stuck with me. And it did, it stuck with me. I've been thinking about it all day because I have people that are not clients, but people in my personal world who are really struggling with this idea right now. After being with somebody for years, yes, you could keep digging. You could keep working on it. But what are you creating for yourself but a deeper and deeper hole that's darker and darker, and you're never getting anywhere? So anyway, I like that analogy. I could probably perseverate on it for a while, but really the point of these videos, of course, is just for me to share a little bit of my thoughts that maybe somebody can relate to. And, again, I love symbolism, and I love imagery, and I like that one. So that's kind of on my mind, and that, sometimes we do need to just acknowledge that all that work we did was certainly worthwhile and may actually help teach us how to dig a better well over here in a different area where we might be more successful. What can we learn from all that emotional labor that we might have done? What can we take from that experience and do something healthier the next time? And how do we just sit with the idea that we gave those years, right, or months or weeks, whatever it may be, to something that just didn't go anywhere? And can we see value in that? Instead of seeing it as something that we've lost, that we'll never get back, trying to kind of find some value and some learning from that, and then letting it go and accepting. Those are big topics. But again, I like that analogy. And I think what I'm going to do today is a little guided imagery meditation on the concept of kind of continuing with this, not necessarily with digging a hole, but maybe planting a garden. I think on my Instagram, I posted a little emoji post about a little poem, a little snippet of a poem about instead of waiting for someone to water your garden, make your garden grow, planting your own seeds. So I think I'm going to do a guided imagery meditation. So this video might be a little bit longer than my usual one. So if anybody who's watching this wants to sit and listen to this guided imagery, I'm just going to kind of wing it. I do guided imagery meditations with my clients somewhat regularly, and typically they're kind of planned out based on what the client's needs might be at any particular time. But this one will be kind of ad lib, so bear with me if it seems a little wackadoodle. But imagery can be helpful in meditations. Obviously, when you're doing a meditation that's just a breathing exercise where you're trying to kind of bring relaxation, you can still, we still talk about soft belly and maybe visualizing it in some way that's soft, some soft thing like cotton candy or, whatever it may be. So using imagery in a bigger way can be very helpful, not just to bring out relaxation, because that's a part of it, but actually to help you really identify and find hope, like identify ways to move forward, find hope in things, maybe find safety. I do safety-related imagery exercises with people, particularly in the mind-body skills groups that I do. There's one that's always based on finding a safe place and visualizing that. So I might just do a little visualize planting your own garden imagery exercise here in a second. So feel free to close your computer, close it I guess, but turn it away and listen to it and see if you find any usefulness in it. Tonight I will set the intention for myself to do a little imagery exercise, and I may take this very one and just build on it a little bit for myself. The song that I'm going to add to my playlist is, as I mentioned yesterday, I've been listening to a lot of Billie Eilish, and I'm really loving her. I think when I went to Austin City Limits Music Festival, when she played, Gary Clark Jr., I think, if I remember correctly, was playing at another stage at the same time. And my 18-year-old daughter, who was then 17, I think, went to see Billie Eilish. I went to Gary Clark. They both won Grammys the other day. What do you know? I don't regret that decision at all. Gary Clark kicked ass. But I've really enjoyed listening to Billie Eilish. She's only 18 years old, and she's already put out 2 albums, and she and her brother write all of their music, their lyrics and their music together. And I am just astounded that an 18-year-old can write some of the things that I've been hearing. So I've just chosen really a song that has no consequence to anything I'm talking about. I just like it, and I like its concept. The name of it is Come Out and Play, and it's a soft song. A lot of her stuff is much more, it's not as soft as this necessarily, but I love the message in the song, which is basically, we want you to not isolate. So it's kind of sounds like it's being sung to someone who may be a little bit depressed or maybe a little bit repressed. And the song lyrics are encouraging that person to just kind of come out and be, and not be alone. And so it's kind of lovely. So I'm going to post that. And now I'm going to do a little ad-lib guided imagery about planting a garden. And this is just a tiny taste of what a guided imagery exercise would sound like and be like, because I don't want these videos to be too long. I have thought about maybe doing a little channel within my channel, like a playlist of just straight meditation exercises, so you don't have to listen to all my chatter if you so desire. And so I may at some point later this year actually do a few of these that are more in depth, and again, that don't come with all my chit chat. So in any case, here's a sample guided imagery exercise. And again, with all exercises, find yourself in a comfortable place. This one can absolutely be done laying down. In fact, a really great way to do meditations when you're laying down is to, for instance, lay on the floor. Laying in the bed might encourage more sleep, but that's okay too. I always say in my mind body skills groups, when we do these longer meditations, I say if you fall asleep, that's not failure, because that's exactly what you needed at that moment. But I would suggest maybe laying on the floor. And a good way to do this is to lay on the floor and actually put your feet on the ground such that your knees are pointing up, like toward the ceiling. It just happens to be just kind of a good position to be in that doesn't put a lot of pressure on your back for a long period of time. In any case, find yourself either seated or laying down in a comfortable position. As always, to start a meditation, do your best grounding work. Feel the floor underneath your feet, maybe even underneath your back if you're laying down. If you're sitting in a seat like I am right now, just let your body kind of sink as best as you can into that seat and feel it supporting you underneath. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable closing your eyes. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, you can always just soften your gaze toward the floor in front of you or the end of your nose. And just let your hands fall at your sides wherever they're comfortable, and just let them be. And start with your breath. Take a nice deep inhale to start off with. Really challenge the fact that you might be breathing shallow right now because you've been running around, but breathe in through your nose and see if you can pull the air as far deep into your lungs as you can. Do a few tension releasing exhales where you breathe in and blow it out through your mouth. You can even make a sound if you feel comfortable and you are in a space where you can do that. It's great for releasing tension and starting a meditation like this. So breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Just do that a few times. As you do this exercise, if you start to have a thought that has nothing to do with this, just see it and slide it on by. Maybe even visualize pushing it out of your mind or out of the front of your vision. returning your awareness back to your breath. What we're going to do is a guided imagery exercise in which we're going to try to help you visualize a place where you can plant some seeds of hope for yourself. These seeds of hope can be hope for anything that you feel is kind of in your mind right now that you think you might want to reach out and grab onto. Maybe it's just a little bit of an investment you want to make in yourself, maybe your personal growth. Maybe planting seeds of hope if you're in the midst of relationship change or loss. Seeds of hope for the next phase of your life, whatever that might be. If you're making a transition or you're feeling unsure about what's happening in your world right now, sometimes visualizing just planting some seeds of hope can be helpful, just in this one moment. We're not looking at solving your problems, but making something grow just in this moment in your mind, in your thoughts. What I want you to do is just take a moment to visualize a place that feels like a good place to plant some seeds. Maybe if you're like me, you like to use little terracotta pots. Maybe what feels right to you is a row in a garden. As you breathe, just take a moment to visualize what's around that for you. Are your pots on a wooden deck? Are your pots out in the lawn, on the grass? Is your little garden row somewhere out in a rural setting, or is it back in your backyard? I want you to walk to that space. Take your shoes off and walk to that space. Feel what's underneath your feet. Again, based on what you just visualized, maybe it's a wooden deck, maybe it's a concrete patio, maybe it's some grass. I'd like you to lean down and see that next to you is a tiny little trowel, little shovel that people use to plant small things. Maybe you're just leaning over, but maybe you're kind of squatting down with one knee on the ground. Might feel kind of hard underneath that knee, or maybe it's soft because you're kind of squatting in the grass. But put your hand on that shovel and see the dirt in front of you. And I want you to reach out with your other hand that's not holding the trowel and feel that dirt. Usually dirt is pretty moist and cool to the touch. Go ahead and feel that with your non-dominant hand so that you're ready to dig into that dirt. And go ahead and dig a little bit. You're only planting a seed, not a big plant, just a seed, maybe 2 or 3 seeds. Dig into that dirt with that trowel, and I'd like you to place a few seeds, or just one, in that hole. These are seeds of hope and change. As you put them in the ground, I'd like you to think about what it is you're planting. What is your intention? Is that hope for tomorrow being a positive day? Maybe it's more of a general hope that you are going to invest in yourself and your growth. Maybe you're hoping for a better relationship, more communication. You can make that hope as specific or as general as you want, and I'm just going to be silent for a moment while you think about what that might be. Just keep breathing. Once you've decided what you're planting a seed of hope for, go ahead and cover it up with the dirt that you've scooped aside. Set the trowel down and just pat that dirt down. And I'd like you to just sit quietly for a moment and visualize that seed sprouting. What does the green sprout look like to you? Think about like a time-lapse video that we've all seen of a seed turning into a little shoot coming out of the dirt, and the shoot turning into leaves. I'd like you to take this opportunity to think about your hope, your investment in yourself, growing like that seed, sprouting open, growing through the dirt towards the sun, and sprouting a leaf and then another one. And say out loud to yourself right now what it is you're hoping for. Say it again. And say, my hope can sprout and grow right in this moment. Then I want you to set your tools down. Dust your hands off, that dirt that might be on them. And just stand up and look at what you've planted. Look at what the time-lapse photography has done in our magical land so that your sprout is there. Maybe say again to yourself what you're hoping for, what you're planting for yourself. And just stand up and walk back where you came from. So of course, in this kind of guided imagery, I can do these much longer, much more detailed. And you can do these. Somebody watching this, if anybody watches this, you can do them as detailed and as long as you like. They can be kind of fun, a really nice way to kind of craft something in your mind that will help you cope with whatever it is you have going on. I think tonight, considering some of the things that have been on my mind, I think that I might want to do a meditation very similar to what I just did, but about kind of hope for the people in my life that I'm thinking about who've been kind of weighing on my mind, the people I love. I'm going to plant some seeds of hope for them to find some peace as they start this new journey in their lives. So that's where I am. Now I'm on to teach and do other things.